I didn't do the whole starting soon thing. So you get to see me just starting the stream up on Twitch and YouTube and getting things going. Me not talking for the first few seconds is kind of fun. Yeah. And then coming back to it and going, oh, look, I didn't start that. The life of creating and sharing stuff online is fun. You know, the one thing that I haven't said recently that I do want to say, because I feel good about it, is on at least the last two streams and this stream today, I am turning ads off. No ads. Because one day I was watching the stream while talking to people and also getting people saying, oh, I missed what you said because there was an ad. And I'm thinking, I don't like that. I don't like the ads interrupting the conversation. So let's go without ads. And I've talked about like earnings on YouTube as far as an artist is concerned and, you know, doing things like that and my kind of thoughts within it. Okay, computer stuff done. Painting time. Painting time. And I think we're going to simplify this today. I'm going to turn off my inspiration right now. That way it's just focus today. Focus on painting. Oh, I do need to switch out my reference because I turned it right side up. We were working on it upside down for a while so that I could focus more on shapes rather than this idea of, you know, I'm painting a hand or I'm painting a finger or something specific, but it was more all about shapes, more about shapes. And it's interesting, as soon as I turn this painting right side up, God, it has even better feeling to it right away. Upside down, it was more about shapes. I was seeing shapes. Now I'm seeing more body and composition and everything that I want within this painting. So more motivation kind of was injected into me as soon as I turned it right side up. And I'm excited to continue on this hand today. And the reason why today that I just want to focus on painting and definitely answer questions and talk through the process as much as I can, you know, still be active within this because I don't like being quiet within there. I mean, just watching me paint and no interaction is boring, right? But the reason why I want to not have, you know, an extra topic for today, but just focus on the painting and the painting process is because yesterday I just had a lot of fun conversing with everyone and got a bit sidetracked. And as I get my head in the way for everything, and I'm feeling a need to make progress on this, a need to make more progress quickly. Like we tend to have this idea in our head of how long a painting should take, right? It's kind of like we can't help but run like painting through these analogies of like a job. How much time did you spend on that? How much time did it take? How much money did you make based on the time? Blah, blah, blah. You know, all that kind of stuff. And, you know, another reason why I use a limited palette is because I'm not having the space that I want all up at the top for all these colors. But this painting is calling for more colors, so I'm putting them all out. But yeah, I'm feeling that necessity right now to get something done. Yeah, we are in a time now where people respond or react well to consistent things happening. Oh gosh, he's on the same painting. I'm not going to watch that. I'll wait till he's finished and then I'll, you know, hopefully watch a video where he just time lapses the whole thing. Give it to me all at once. No, we're not about that here. We're going to bring you into the reality of artwork and painting in general. and to understand a bit fully the time that is invested in some of the artwork that we do, and to be happy with that. And I'm starting with this super intense color. So working on this hand today, the masculine hand up here, worked on it a little bit yesterday. I was talking about color and did, I think, a horrible job of trying to explain my process for mixing and matching color, which was great. It was fantastic. Like, I enjoy those moments where I get frustrated. Well, I mean, in the moment, you're frustrated, right? But I enjoy those times when I find very, it's visceral moment where it's obvious that this is something that I can work on. And teaching is one thing. Like, you can paint really well. You could be like the best painter on the planet, but teaching how you're doing that, is a whole other skill. It's definitely a whole other skill. So I'm finding some limitations within my skill of teaching. And it's another reason why I'm doing these streams and videos, to get out there and to learn it better, to really put, myself in a vulnerable state, almost like I'm in front of people teaching. I wish everybody could be here. I wish it was like every day I could show up at a studio and have people show up and we paint together and we ask questions and we converse about it. To be a wonderful community and endeavor. It'd be a lot of fun. Now I want to bring more in that intensity back. So I'm working on this hand here. And the first thing that I'm starting on is the knuckles within this masculine hand. I know that the reference on the left is a little small to see the details that I'm talking about in some instances. But the reason why I'm working on this is because I see that there's this almost intense, somewhat alizarin, kind of grayish red within those knuckles. And it's something I noticed right away. I feel like I can simply look at it, look at that hand, and that's the first thing that I feel I can translate into paint easiest. Like, I already have a vision in my mind about these knuckles and how to move them into paint. And usually when I'm dealing with a painting, like starting a painting out the very first time, at the very beginning, or starting on a new part of a painting, what I look at or how I decide where to start is based on what feels the easiest at the beginning. And of course, a lot of that kind of takes in this understanding of ourselves as artists and, the time that we've put in it to gather that understanding. But that's where I'm starting. That's why I'm starting here. I'm going to try and vocalize as much as I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So just going through these knuckles, figuring out just basic shape and placement on this hand. One of the things we can always do to kind of figure out the shape of a hand is look at these major knuckles on a hand, and there's always this kind of arch that moves through them. Like if you connect them with a line, there's going to be that kind of arch that goes through the hand, and it helps me get the drawing correct when I do that as well. And the one thing I know about this hand from yesterday, because we were focusing on color, is how much gray is in it. There's a lot of gray being thrown around in that hand. There's a lot of shadow that's happening. I see some greens in places, like a green gray, a warm gray, or cool gray, all over the place. And what I want to try and grab at first is like a more, like I have this super general block in, especially with the fingers, a little bit more information within the palm of the hand or the top of the hand. But I want to move further into the fingers today and get a little bit more exact within the block end. Like still think about big shapes, trying not to see the finger or the details on the finger for the entirety of the fingers themselves, and thinking more about, okay, is that shape, what does that shape look like? Am I putting it in the right place? Does it work with the hand entirely as far as the drawing and the placement's concerned? Because like I always say, when we're painting, we're also drawing. We're just drawing within shape rather than line for the most part. Although we can always turn our brush to the side and do a sharper line in many instances. So right here, you can see I'm kind of hovering my brush over location. I want to hit this next knuckle from the middle finger down, but I'm gauging its placement based on other things in the painting. So I'm like, okay, where is it going to go in the angle from the major knuckle to the finger? And I'm pretty sure it needs to go right there. Still, you know, all this red I feel is super intense compared to what's actually there. So trying to figure out that color as I go. I'm removing some intensity as well. I do have a kind of all that red mixed into a bit of a gray, very light gray there. But now I'm going to mix up a green. So most of this pile of color is red. So I'm going to mix up a green as it's complementary and mix that in together with it. It's going to neutralize that red. You know, mix the complementary color, the opposite color to neutralize it. To bring that down a bit. Thinking about the major shapes. Whenever I draw fingers, one of the things that helps me draw fingers is looking at the points at where all of the, like we have 3 different break points on a finger. We have, if I do this way, we have the major knuckle here, we have this knuckle, and then the tip knuckle, right? And however your finger or your hand is positioned, or whatever hand you're painting is positioned, these 3 points on every finger, and then the tip, of course, 4 points, I guess, can help you kind of triangulate where the finger is in space for the drawing. So that always helps me. So the next one on this middle finger is going to be out here. And I'm looking at the placement compared to like the distance from this knuckle, like the angle that it goes up. And then I'll also look at like on a vertical line where it meets with everything else. Like it's actually, you know, from the photo, it's like way out here. It's supposed to be a bit further out. Like maybe right there. So I brought it in a little bit. So it's a little bit off. But as long as it looks natural, I think it'll be fine. Hey, Omar, welcome, welcome. Did you get my email about the other person here on the stream paying for your mentorship with me? Yeah, you don't have to let me know now. Just want to make sure to see if you got my email, if you're thinking about it. And when you get a chance, respond to it. But hopefully you did. If you didn't, I'll resend it. Just want to make sure that we're connecting, right? But it's good seeing you today. Hopefully you're doing well. We're painting today. We're focusing on the painting. No alternative topic, just the raw painting process. Everything that I'm thinking about as I'm doing this. I'm moving to the edge of this finger, still just on this middle finger. I picked this middle finger because it's there and it felt like I could kind of move from it throughout the rest of the hand. And getting still a block in, just a simple shape within this finger, but a bit more exact block end than these like big major strokes that I have. And understanding that right now, this initial big stroke that I put down has a really good chance of being incorrect as far as the drawing and placement of these shapes. So slowing down and trying to get every brushstroke I put down in the right place. That's where like true speed of getting a painting done quickly really happens for me, and I think for a lot of artists. It's not moving your hand around as fast as you can and putting things down really fast. Accuracy. Through accuracy, we get a lot of things done the first time without a lot of corrections, and that equates to a better painting done faster. So I'm always thinking about that. I'm thinking about the thickness of this finger. Just that single line of the top edge. I'm pretty sure it goes out a bit further too. It goes pretty far. I mean, in comparison with this hand, it should be about right there. So not too bad. But I love how this space, it gets really blue, and there's a lot of bluish, greenish type of color there. So I want to bring that in. It's one of those things where I'm painting, I'm thinking about shape, but I'm also thinking about several other things at the same time. I'm thinking about kind of the narrative. This is a different figure, and I could use color and shape and texture and line and how I put the brushwork down to really indicate that, hey, this is a very different figure than, these colors here, than those shapes there, and really kind of separate in a lot of ways. The edges of all the brushstrokes could be harsh and sharp. The texture could be a bit more kind of gravelly, the color could be a bit different, a bit more alizarin throughout. I haven't used a lot of alizarin throughout this painting. I just brought it in yesterday onto my palette. And thinking about that in a more narrative way. But also thinking about, just general shape, the fundamentals of drawing within painting as well. Just getting it down in the right place so it looks like a hand, but a more stylized hand in some ways as well. So that's probably the major idea that I've been working on recently for myself, is this fun balance between expressive brushwork and putting paint down in interesting ways that still look like the object that we're painting, but also move away from it in accuracy a little bit, but not so much that it still doesn't say hand or finger, some other specific thing. And as I do this, like I got right to that stroke and I'm looking at the space that needs to happen between this knuckle and this knuckle here, and those spaces are off. This knuckle needs to drop down a bit. So let's do that. Small touches here, just little small shapes. Really seeing those small shapes. Omar says, what I meant by value matching is value grouping. You're getting what I mean, sir. Okay. Value grouping. Definitely. Yeah, that's a really good point. We saw that, a very definite value grouping within the Frank Frazetta painting that we were working on together. A very definite light and dark difference. I can bring this over. This guy right here. Like when it went to shadow for Frank Frazetta, it was like, you don't see anything. It's nothing but shadow. It's just like definite light, definite shadow. But having those groupings, yeah, totally. And there is an interesting, I don't like the word rule, but kind of a a fundamental aspect of light and shadow that can help you within that. If you think, and I've heard this before, if let me see if I can say this correctly. So the lightest light in your shadow should never be lighter than the darkest dark in your light area. So always have like that definite separation between the two. So if you're usually in, I can move into like this big thing. So when you look at a lot of shadows, like the hand on the back and the back of the female figure, like all those dark areas will never be as light as the halftones that you see in the lighter areas. Kind of like, this halftone here on this figure. And then like you can compare that with the lighter area on this hand, right? And you want to make sure that definitely this part of this figure should always be lighter than the light part in that shadow. So always have that defined group of shadow and light separated within those ways. And I found that if you kind of follow that, somewhat rule, rules are meant to be broken. It can still be a beautiful painting when you break those rules. But if you follow that kind of idea, it tends to work out really well, right? Like, and a good example is, as I see that, this feels a lot lighter, and I can put something there to kind of remind me, because I saw it now. I know myself. If I don't put it down, I could forget it. So this is going to be, but I'm still thinking in specific and shape as well. So I can put this down. You can see I'm lightening up that area a lot. I want it to go a little bit pink as well. Man, the colors I put down yesterday, not as good as I thought they were. Just very subtle difference here. I think I need to really move around some of the drawing of this too. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Omar. It's a really fantastic thing to think about. Value is so important. And what's interesting, like, look, okay, so I mixed up that color. If I put it over here, like this is a halftone in the lighter area, you can see like how much darker that is, like that bigger separation. So when I see that, I'm like, I wonder if I could bring it up a little bit more, like bring the value up even further on this hand over here, but still have that separation. A lot of times we make our shadow areas a bit too dark, or at least I do. Like maybe I can, yeah, it's still so much darker than that. Like bring it up in value even further, see what it looks like. I love compressing value ranges, especially on the lighter side. So the entire value of your whole painting would be compressed in like this lighter kind of gamut of value ranges. So you're constantly adjusting what you're seeing. Yeah, I kind of like that. Like it, even though it's lighter, it brings in a bit more of that specific shape. I'm going to squint down. Let's look. No, I don't think it's more confusing. It could stay a little bit darker, honestly. Yeah, a little bit darker. But I'm going to be putting more detail into that. So it might be pretty good for right now. And I see we kind of go over to green here, like this interesting green. Not a lot of pretty colors in here. Not a lot of intense colors. Like this blue is, not right out of the tube, but it feels pretty intense. Where was I going to put that? I saw it really quickly, like right here. Bring a little bit of that intensity back. some more interest within it, maybe. Yeah, nice. Nice. It's not bad. Now, I am pushing coloration within this. I'm pushing some values. I'm making intentional changes. I'm not really trying to copy from the photo specifically. Just get enough from it so it looks like what I want it to look like, a hand and a really well-shaped hand, but not photorealistic in any way, not close to photorealism. It's not what I'm going for. And I think hopefully it's already speaks to that. Like, oh, okay, well, this is a painting that's intentionally done stylistically, and people can see that. Because sometimes we attempt to stylize something and it doesn't go far enough and it's just confusing. People are like, yeah, it's just not a good painting. It's like halfway in between stylization and exactness. A lot of times if we take it further within the stylization, it looks a bit better because it has a definite purpose behind it. Yeah, I'm kind of moving all over the place here, just not being very specific, just seeing things that make up this hand and responding to them, which is a lot of fun. Little shapes, little tiny fun shapes within it. Happy trees. For some reason, I just had this vision of Bob Ross. Love his voice, how it's like all calm and relaxed throughout. You know, the most popular art streamer on Twitch is Bob Ross, which is so funny. The original was a lot of fun. So I'm going to move into the light area now. I'm going to move into some of these really lighter areas. So I switched brushes. Always helpful when you're going from one section to the other when we're talking about grouping value ranges. That's always helpful. Okay, I'm in the light area. I use my light brush. I'm in the dark area. I use my dark brush. I'm in the saturated area. Use this saturated red brush. You know, having enough brushes to kind of separate things out is a very practical way to help you move through a painting. If you're going for like very clean color, clean as in, you want maybe every pile that you mix up of color is made up of maximum maybe 3 colors on your palette, like white, red, yellow, ochre, right? And that's it. Keep it clean. And then also keep it specific. If you want your mixtures to be that clean, always like a separate brush for like your reds, your yellows, your light, your dark. You know, you could have up to 20 brushes. It really depends on how clean you want to keep everything, right? And a lot of times it's faster that way because you can always keep a little bit of that paint in your brush. And then when you move back to the light area or this other area, you're like, oh, well, I'll move back to this brush. It already has some paint set up in it. I don't have to mix from scratch, and then move through it that way. Yeah, that's always helpful. It's something that, I try and do, but also I forget a lot of the times as well. Like I'll be working and then all of a sudden I'm looking at my brushes and all of them are the same color. It's all mixed together. Yeah, you could totally, simplify everything So Omar asks, so can I group the whole halftone in different area with the same value? Yeah, it's really interesting how minimal information you need to describe what you're painting in a lot of ways. What I'd like to do is show you a practical example of that real quick. And it can be on this painting of like grouping values and simplifying. And it still, shows as an image. Let's move to Photoshop. Let me show my screen as soon as it comes up. And I'm going to bring up the reference for this painting as well. Okay, let me show my screen. And it's upside down. Let's rotate it. There we go. So there's my reference. What I can do, there's this really cool filter in Photoshop, like the cutout filter, and it's already set there. So I'm gonna, that's cool at that size. And what I can do is I can set like how many levels. These are more value levels than anything. Let's set it to 3. I see everything kind of, and then edge simplicity. Let's do maybe fidelity on the edges. Let's go 5 and 5 and 3. So you can see digitally how Photoshop does this. And I would say, come up with your own way, but there's a grouping of values that happen here. And what I'll do is I'll hit OK. And we can kind of go back and forth. And when you look at how simplistic things happen, let me zoom in on a couple areas. And it's still like, this is actually a really good example down here. Like this arm is going into shadow. This is all one tone all the way down here, the whole thing. And I would argue that if I was doing this, all these little bits and pieces they're showing out here could be simplified into one tone as well. See, this is original, and then one big tone. Original, one big tone. But we can still reference the entirety of the image, like exactly what's happening in this image, with all that simplicity. And you could simplify it even further. Like on this arm, you have 1, 2, 3 layers. That could be all one layer, right? And a lot of artists do this. A lot of Colleen Barry, I was just looking at, Barry. The simplification that they're able to do with their work is just absolutely amazing. I want to back this up. Let's go back to open. Rotate canvas. There we go. And I'll save it. But the simplifying and getting a clarity between the light and the dark, and then merging a lot of those simple tones together really helps us as artists to understand the form of things, right? And to keep that separation of shadow and light and halftones and light and halftones within shadows. It gives us a better understanding of, how to move through a painting. And to it's one of those things where you need to push yourself to simplify. Like, even though we don't understand the forms and the drawing as well, because that's where it starts. It's like, oh, I don't really understand the drawing of this well. I don't understand what I'm looking at. So our initial urge is to get really detailed within everything. So to describe everything with a million brushstrokes. But if we can push ourselves to simplify, or to try and simplify throughout, as much as possible, like how can I turn this whole shadow into one big shape? Like there's no difference between this hand and that body, right? It's basically the same thing. If we can do that, it really helps us to unify the whole painting in a very simplistic way. I think it's one of the kind of, I call like kind of next level of painting. Like a lot of times we'll go through, and I think this is almost necessary for a lot of representational artists, going through this aspect of extreme detail first to really understand what we're doing, what we're looking at, and then slowly understanding simplification within that. So don't be like in a rush to simplify too quickly. Okay. Like understand that, hey, you'll get there. Just keep thinking about it. But a lot of times, like we have to move through tremendous detail, or a lot of detail, maybe not tremendous detail, to really get to a point where we can understand the forms enough to simplify them. It's an interesting dichotomy. Like only when you understand something that you're painting fully can you really paint it simply and easily. It's like, I look at the artists like Colleen Barry with such reverence because they're able to simplify what they're looking at in such elegant and beautiful and simplistic ways. And then also within that, it's done well, like in a stylistic concern that's all their own, but also like I don't have any complaints that most of that hand is still blank canvas, and the majority of what they painted is like this simple shapes. It still feels like a hand to me, a well-formed hand. We can take our artwork into as many directions as we want, but getting more and more detailed, super hyper photorealistic is one route to really understand what you're looking at in this very detailed way. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful to do that. I prefer, and I know for my own sensibilities, that I love it when artists are able to simplify really well in such beautiful ways and say something like poetically within paint. But it's kind of, we can do it either way. We can, or we can do it both ways. We could have paintings where, this one's going to be super hyper photorealism because I think it needs to be. And then do another painting where, it's all about simplification. We can choose to do that. Or we start out with super photorealism or trying to get there, and then we move into something that doesn't need as much words, right? And when I say words, I mean like brushstrokes or detail, things like this. I really like equating language, writing, and a lot of the words that we use within, that creative act, and finding similarities and analogies within painting because they work so well, Every brushstroke we put down is another word of something that we're saying. And depending how we put it down is the tone of that word that we're saying. A really bright brushstroke is saying something much different than a very dark colored brushstroke. A very jagged edge on a brushstroke says something very different than a very soft edge. And looking through it that way, I think, is really interesting. And either one is perfectly fine. Like there's no person on the planet that could say, oh, all sharp brushstrokes are better than soft brushstrokes. No, we could look at the difference between Innes, Inness is a wonderful painter. Thomas Wilmer Dewing, very soft. These two artists, super soft brushstrokes everywhere. And then you look at someone like, I'm trying to think of artists with very delineated brushwork. And Gale is a good example of that. Gale, very delineated brushwork. Like every single stroke is sharp. Or Van Gogh. I mean, look at Van Gogh, and you can see every time he put a brush to canvas. Very specific brushwork. I'm going to turn on my fan real quick. It's getting warm in here. Summertime in the desert. It gets hot. So right now, speaking of brushwork, I mean, this is very delineated marks. I'm not thinking about edges within this. I'm wanting to delineate different shapes. And I'm thinking about placement and accuracy of drawing more than anything at this moment. Like this shape here, which is like the shadow shape under the pinky, like where is that in relation to this knife in that hand? And what is the angle that it runs at? Is it right? Is it correct there? Of course, it has some soft and hard edges to it, but I'm not going to get into that at the moment. I can soften this out. I mean, that's the great thing about oil paint. It'll stay wet there for a while, and I can throw a brush over it to soften it out if I want pretty easily. Moving a bit of all over the place. And I love this kind of broken brushwork at the moment here. I mean, it's still like if I back away, and look at the digital image on the stream, I'm looking there and I'm like, yeah, I feel hand. I don't feel that it's saying hand as exact as I want. That balance between simplicity of the brushwork and still describing the shape well. I think I definitely have work to do to describe this better. I think one thing that's going to help is there's just a slight shadow down here as well, just indicating how where the wrist turns into hand. Like it's a subtle little change. That was a bit dark. But I want to make sure that these lines are going to go in the right direction. So a lot about drawing there. Yeah, we're always drawing when we're painting. This is something I'll repeat over and over again. Not just for your sake. I'm always trying to impart some helpful knowledge, but honestly, I need the reminder all the time, like constant reminder. I'm always drawing, always thinking about what you're putting down, thinking about what it's going to do to the painting. Did it make some effect? Oh my gosh. That just totally killed that entire color. Let's see if that's close enough though. Yeah, that's actually better. Thank you, blue. Here's something I could say that would be pretty helpful, a little bit practical as I mixed up that. So the titanium white here is from Winton. This is from Phoenix Artist Oils. This is yellow ochre from Winton. Cadmium red light from Winton. This is alizarin crimson from M. Graham. This is ultramarine blue from Rembrandt. And this is ivory black from Winton. So all the Winton and the Phoenix Artist Oils colors are student grade, which means they use less pigment per oil, right? So the ground up dry pigments that make cadmium red or ivory black or, whatever that is, plus the oil is actually what makes, the paint that we're painting on. But to get those tubes to be a little bit cheaper, inexpensive, right? They put a little bit less pigment in them, so that they cost less to make, right? Makes sense, of course, makes sense. Does it make them bad? No, they still can have the vibrance of tubes with just as much, with more pigment in them, right? Now, what it does really affect is tinting strength when you have a combination of quote unquote professional oil paints on your palette versus student oils. And so I have to be careful with the ultramarine blue because it's from Rembrandt, has a higher pigment load. The M. Graham alizarin crimson has a higher pigment load. These two, because they have a higher pigment load, just a little tiny bit is really going to adjust all of those other colors greatly because of the higher pigment load. So I have to be careful there. And I think if we want to remove that thought or need to think about that adjustment that needs to happen within our paints, we could get all student or all professional and it would even out a bit. Of course, there would be some outliers within that as far as the colors go, because some colors just have higher tinting strength within themselves. And, buying all the same brand or something like that within our palette could be helpful. It's a very practical thing to do. I mean, if I had these two colors in Winsor & Newton Winton, I would probably use Winton. Definitely. But there could be an advantage to utilizing that difference in pigment load as well. For example, I know there's a lot of, you'll see titanium white out there in oil paint, but then you'll also see like zinc white. And then also you'll see titanium zinc white, like in one tube where they mix the two. But years ago, I was like, why would you do that? Why would you mix both of them? You just have titanium white and zinc white. Why the mixture? And the complaint about titanium white is very intense. It's the most intense white that you can get, okay? Like if you want super, super high value white, and it's on the bluer side, titanium white is what you want. And we use it because it's inexpensive and it has super high tinting strength, right? But there's sometimes when it's just like too overpowering, like, oh, I wish I could put in a lot of paint, a lot of white into this color, but it not be so, like it not affect my mixture so much. And so they use zinc white to kind of cut that tinting strength of titanium white. So they're utilizing the lack of tinting strength for zinc to help kind of calm down that titanium white a bit. Like we can totally do that. Like we can intentionally put professional paints on our palette because maybe we want these particular colors to have a very high tinting strength and really be a greater accent color than anything else on our palette if we want, or to calm down other colors if we need. Yeah, definitely. Now, if you think about art in this way of there's no right or wrong anymore. And there's really not. There's no right way to paint something or a wrong way to paint something. It's all preference, right? It's all, I prefer to do it this way because of my sensibilities. And another person prefers to do it another way because of their sensibilities. And that's all just wonderful that we can do that. I love the infinity of what it is. So when we see an effect, either fundamentally like of the paint or a brush, and we're like, oh, that brush is really scratchy, or that paint is really intense, it's, whatever it may be, that paint is super thick and very hard to move around. It's never a bad thing. Like that's not a negative. It's just a property that we can choose to use in certain ways if we want, right? So Like the properties of gambling paint. I prefer not to use gambling paint anymore because they are very thick. But if I like to maybe paint with a very specific palette with, let's say, a lot of medium, and I want to have like impasto with the medium that I'm using, I'd probably pick gambling paint in that aspect because the thickness would work with what I'm trying to do. Like Graham is very fluid paint. You know, if I'm on a very absorbent surface, I'm trying to think about this color here. If I'm on a very absorbent surface and I want the paint to move around a lot easier, and for me, I don't like using a lot of mediums, I'll just get my Graham paints out. And I'm like, okay, this is going to be perfect because I know it's really fluid. So I'm using what in some instances I would think would be negative for this paint. Like I could say, oh, I don't like Graham because it's too fluid. I don't like gambling because it's too thick. But in certain instances, I can utilize those properties and now it's a positive. And that's the great thing about art. About painting in general. It's like nothing is bad. It's all instances of information where we can learn how to use those properties to speak the way we want to speak on a canvas. If there was only one way to do this art thing and people were like, yeah, you have to do it this way if you want to do a good painting, you know, it would be finite, this very finite thing and uninteresting, and it would be figured out by people hundreds of years ago and we wouldn't do it again. No, it's just a simple thing. It's not really, you know, it would not have the breadth and infinity within it that it does now. So we all kind of wish for like an ease, like I want an easy way to paint. But at the same time, it's like if it was easy, you know, if it was like, oh, just trace the image and then just paint from it and you'll make Rembrandt like paintings all the time. If it was that easy, like it wouldn't be done that often. Like we would stop doing it. I'm worried about the drawing on these fingers. Like I know they're off. There's some thickness and things that is not matching up to these fingers, but I'm continuing on. I'm ignoring it a little bit because I don't think it's off so much that when I get this more exact block end done, that I'm going to look at it and go, okay, that just doesn't look like a well-formed hand. It's too distracting. Yeah, it's stylized, but the balance is off. That balance between stylization and simplification is taking over too much, and I need to rein it back in. So hopefully I don't run into that. Hopefully the stylization works well, and I don't have to redraw these hands, or this hand. Like I kind of feel that a little bit with this hand here. Like I feel like the drawing is a little wonky on that. And then part of me is like, you know, I could redo that, but I am not willing to do it. Not willing to do it. It's kind of interesting. You know, we move through artwork and sometimes it comes into our understanding of like, yeah, that would be a lot of work to redo that. Let me just start a new painting. That would be better. Let's just do that. Sorry, looking down at my watch. Usually it'll show me how long I've been working on this. Already an hour. Jeez. Man, the time flies. Time flies when you're having fun, right? And the one thing that I need to get better at, and I know right away as I'm looking at this, is I need to mix up thicker piles of paint. It's always been a problem of mine. So to help me get out of this like thin mixture, I'm just going to pop in a really big pile of white. This is going to screw up all those colors that are there. So that's going to force me to really bring in more paint to get those colors back to where they need to be. Yeah. Big chunk of black too. Make up a big gray. It's like mess everything up. We are so afraid so much, like, oh, I don't think I can get that color again. It matched it perfectly. Oh no. And so we like, and that's what I do. Like I keep diving into like there's no paint left on the palette. It's like this thin thing. And I'm like trying to mine out as much as I can because I want to stay with that perfect color that I mixed. But what it ends up in is like a very thinly painted painting, like no definition, no defined strokes within it. That can go darker. So every time I pull from these piles, except for the pro brands, I need to make this effort of pulling more paint in, making thicker mixtures. I mean, the paint, honestly, the oil paint looks better, in my opinion, when it's thicker. The funny thing is right in the middle of me saying that, there was one artist that popped into mind that made beautiful paintings with super, super thin paint. And I know there's a lot more artists out there. I forget his name, Von Stuck, Stuck, I think. Saw a show of his in Seattle years and years ago, and it was like just dry paint scraped onto canvases. Very, very dry. I was like, these are beautiful. Like, why do you need to paint thick? But then I also look at other paintings with just like really thick, luscious paint on there. And I'm like, oh, that's gorgeous too. So, one aspect or another aspect of painting in certain ways. The one thing I have noticed with that is, depending on the surface you're working on, when you're painting thicker, when you're putting thicker paint down, there's a vibrancy and a lusciousness in the color. Luscious. I mean, how does that translate into, more saturation, I would say, more vibrance, I guess, within the color, more feeling of depth and stuff that I feel within the color when the paint is applied thickly. I do see that. There's a glossiness that happens too. There's texture of the brush that happens as well. So all of that comes along with thick painting. That's the aspects of it. And if like you don't like that, you paint thinly, right? Like watercolor. Watercolor goes on really thin and flat. Like I don't know of any watercolors that puts watercolor paint on really thick. That'd be interesting. I'm sure they're out there. So yeah, I need to get out of the habit of painting so thinly, especially for this hand. I want it to be, the narrative of this hand is a bit oppressive and hard, like stone, So thicker paint, I think, would get me there. I think it will. Sharper edges would get me there. I'm just moving around this same area. Honestly, a bit haphazardly. I'm not thinking too much about like working in specific area and staying in that specific area for a period of time until it's resolved, like start from the knuckle and then move out to the finger that is connected to that knuckle. But no, just looking at different moments within this area and then saying, oh, I see that. I see where that can go. There's a bit of understanding that kind of blinks into my mind. And then I'm like, okay, let's capture it real quick. Let's mix up a color and capture that understanding, that shape, simply and quickly. And sometimes it's kind of predicated upon this idea like, oh, I have that dark color in my brush already. Like I just saw this knuckle down here that I don't have delineated well in the pinky. I'm like, okay, well, I have a color that's probably going to be pretty close to that. So let's put it down. It needs to be a little bit lighter. But really just kind of moving around it. Moving around the hand. Having fun recognizing these shapes. And putting them down in an interesting way where I think that they're interesting. And, there's no really way to explain that, honestly. What is interesting to me? I mean, that's a million different things. What I would say, like how to move that into like a practical language. There's a lot of places where, we were talking about those grouping of values. Hey, Chris. Hey, welcome. We were talking about those grouping of values. There's a lot of places where if the values are really close between two different objects, I'll go ahead and like lose that edge intentionally because it's a sensibility that I like to do. I like losing edges a lot. I think losing edges throughout the painting and losing that information, losing as much information as we can, and it's still looking like the object that we want to paint, having the essence of that object, but kind of hinting at it. I love that because it's an opening for the viewer to bring in their own interpretations. And that's just fun. I mean, that's an artist. I feel like that's a painter, that's when I'm being cognizant of the viewer and welcoming them in and saying, hey, at this moment and a bunch of these moments throughout, this is where you have a conversation. This is where you can come in. Look at that purple, how extreme that is. Yeah, that's way too intense. So dark on this train. Let me lighten this up. Yeah, that's a bit better. Now the painting is way too light, I think. Oh, dealing with that is such a pain. Every time I look back at this, the painting on the stream, I'm always like, oh man, I wish you could see what I'm seeing. The detail and everything just doesn't translate most of the time. I wish I could have this in 4K constantly, but there's no camera out there that is under, a few $1,000s that can do 4K for more than like an hour. It's crazy. Anyway, and I think you're a more cognizant painter, a more like giving painter, if you're welcoming people into your painting. You're saying, I'm leaving a lot of this up for interpretation because I want you to be part of this. Like, please come into my painting and be part of it. I really love that. And there's other artists and other people, like viewers, that are like, don't like that at all. They like, no, I want everything spelled out for me. I don't want to have to think about it. It's like with movies, I get that there's a lot of people that go, yeah, I don't really like dramas. I don't want to have to think. When I go out to see a movie, I just want pure entertainment. Like, it better have a bunch of explosions in it, and comedy and stuff like that. And totally cool. All right. Totally cool. And I'm like that sometimes, I'll watch a movie and I'm like, okay, I'm not in the mindset to get into this movie. I just want to kind of be entertained for an hour or so, right? And then there's other moments it's like, no, I'm ready. I'm ready to be affected in the long term by a story that has a very deep meaning about the human experience. Yeah, let's go. So for my painting, for my artwork, I want, and the paintings I look at, I want to be affected like lifelong by like that human experience. Yes. Dive deep into, the idea, leave a lot open. Don't spell it all out for me. I want to have to think about it. But the initial has to be interesting. Like I've talked about this before. There's some pieces that I've seen in museums that they're not visually appealing, like a lot of contemporary work, not visually appealing at the beginning, where you're like, oh, like some of them are super like visually amazing, and it's very abstract, whatever it is, but like you have that initial wow factor within it, like, whoa, that's really interesting. And it pulls you in and you're like willing to know, what are you saying here? What's going on? Like, let me dive into it. Like that initial visual impact is really important. And then others, like they have no interesting visual impact for me, and they're trying to say something, but I'm like, hey, I'm not even willing to approach you for that conversation. I think that probably needs to be a bit more green. I'm also doing this thing with my brushes where every brush is turned into the same brush. I have to say, I'm not a neat painter when it comes to that. I mean, I'm neat in the aspect of like I never get paint all over me. I don't like getting paint on me. No. If I get paint on me, everything stops and I have to clean it off, because as soon as it gets on one finger, it's on the other finger, then it's on 5 brushes, and it's on my pants, then somehow it jumped to my face and it's everywhere. I don't like it. Like not in that aspect. I'm a neat painter within that aspect, but with my palette, look, it's like it all turns into mud. Like I could have these separated out where the greens and the lighters are here, purples, warmer reds, grays could be over there. But no, it just all tends to kind of mix in with each other. I know where things are at, where I need to get them. Like they're organized for me. And you guys probably understand this. You walk into some person's room that looks like a bomb hit it, right? But they know where everything is right away. You're like, hey, you got that book about blah, blah, blah? Yeah, it's right here. Under this pile of stuff. That's not me. My room is very neat, but yeah, my palette, very different. Very different. Yeah, the angle of this pinky goes down further. Like there's a spreading of it that I like. So I'm going to try and move the paint in that direction a bit. There's a constant like you'll always deal with foreground and background elements, multiple levels, different things. Right now, the foreground and background element for this is the foreground is the pinky here. The background is this back of this other figure. When I first started painting, when a lot of artists first started painting, we get the drawing as close as we can, and then we try and leave it there. And we paint And we have established all these exterior contours for things that we've drawn. The pinky will have this very definite outline to it. Each finger, each body part, whatever we're painting, right? The tree will be definitely separated from the sky in the background. And then when we go to paint it, we keep that separation. We're like hanging on to that drawing that we did initially, and we don't want to lose it. Can totally understand, because losing the drawing, it's hard to get back sometimes. But that creates a lot of stiltedness within our painting if we always just paint up to that edge of where we drew something and we're a bit afraid to go over it, to not mix those edges together. And it becomes, when we're able to let that go and begin to understand that, hey, I'm going to lose this drawing, but I have the confidence to get it back. And we get to this point where we're able to paint, one edge into the other edge, and then find the definition or where that edge began before, and then put it back in easily. That's I think something that we need to be aware of and to work towards, because it's always helpful. So if we say to ourselves, okay, I'm going right up to that edge of this pinky or this figure, and it's looking like this very sharp thing, let's go ahead and paint one into the other. Let's paint the foreground again. Let's paint the background again. Let's have some lost edges through there, some differences within that. It's always, in my opinion, makes a more interesting painting, where you think about the background and foreground as this one thing, and you can deal with each one at the same time. Paint one into the other. I think John Singer Sargent talked about that, to always paint your background into your foreground. Always go over that edge a little bit, never right up to the edge, but always overlap. Find that drawing again. It's going to make a better painting, a painting that looks a little bit more natural, not so stilted, if that's something you want to do. And that's what I'm thinking about on this pinky here. I had to move that line down, so I had to repaint a little bit of that background, a little bit of the foreground. I like the sense of movement in here. The one thing I am doing that I'm noticing right now is a lot of what I'm saying with my brushwork is kind of like this downward stroke. It's angling as the fingers angle. So I'm doing like cross contour strokes on all these fingers, but the knuckles here are more interesting because I have strokes in all these directions. It's saying different things, right? Every time I put my paintbrush down, I'm saying something different. And I've talked to artists about this before, especially with landscapes. We see it happen a lot with landscapes, because if you're painting like this field of flowers and there's all this separation in all these flowers, like a separate yellow flower every 10 feet or something, there's a tendency for us to go and put the same brushstroke down, like boop, 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 boop. It's almost like we're just tapping the painting to get, flower, 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 that kind of thing. And everything looks so similar. It's like talking in a monotone voice, which is really annoying and boring if you're talking to someone and it has the same, that is so terrible. I even hate doing it. But we tend to do that when we're painting sometimes. We're kind of falling asleep and not thinking about, what am I saying with this brushstroke? What am I doing when I'm putting it down? We start using the brush the same exact way for everything we do. And we've kind of lost the interest within the voice right? With what we're trying to say within the painting. And if we look at things, we're like, oh, well, that needs to go horizontal, like with the finger, you know. The other one needs to go cross contour, and it needs to be very light, where I see all of the bristles within that brushstroke, right? Oh, this one needs to have, this brushstroke needs to have sharp on one side and soft on the other. So I need to use like the corner of my brush to get that to happen or something. Like always thinking about that. Like this is that shape, but how do I want to say it? That's what I was just thinking about here. Like I told you, it's going to be the raw painting process. This is like the fire hose brain of Chris. Just I'm opening up my mind for and trying to kind of bring language into everything that I'm thinking about while I'm doing this. Like this finger here, I like how it goes a little bit pink. It has a different direction at the tip of it right there. It changes directions. I have to bring in some light back into that. But I love how there's like this separate tip end on that finger. And I really want to push that a little bit. And if it looks like it's a little broken, okay, cool. That's pretty nice. And then while I'm trying to do this, I see that that part of the back needs to lighten up to really describe that better. And a bit more of this green color that I did have up here until I screwed it up with a purple. Yeah, where I see these kind of grayish greens that are coming in places, I'm really trying hard to capture those. Actually, over here would probably be better. This is more of a gray. Let's add some yellow and blue to it. Like right here. Yeah, I love that. I mean, it's more of a gray color. But I think that this is what's providing the tremendous like separation between, you know, this is a hand and these are fingers and this is the back that the hand is on. But then right at this part of the tip of the finger, right where the like fingernail turns into lighter value, I can lose that edge. So confuse those viewers a little bit. Oh, there's a separate delineation, but not there. Why? What is it? Yeah, see, it's so much more interesting. It's like, you know, I'm more fascinated by imagery. Hey, another person online. Hi, Chris. How's it going, Home Skillet? Going well. It's going well. I'm doing well. Hopefully you're well. Feeling good today. Didn't sleep well again last night. Having trouble sleeping. Man. So the brain is a little, you know, I don't know why I'm saying a little. My brain is always a little, you know, dead. I mean, the one neuron that I have, right? It's always working hard. And when it doesn't get enough sleep, oof, there's a lot that needs to happen. Anything can happen. Yeah, really pushing that gray there. Like that color on the back is definitely not that gray, but I want to bring it into those grays. Softening that out. Like, see, like every brushstroke I put down, I'm thinking about, or trying to, not every brushstroke, but trying to think about how can I describe that shape a little bit better? How can I like say the way that feels? I should have, and I'm thinking as I'm doing this, because there's so many, like I could take one brush and put it down, a brush stroke down in so many different ways with just one brush. And then bring your finger in, and to get other artists to really dive into the see, this is the brain working very slow, the big the halting words that are happening, right? Trying to get other artists to play with the tip of their brush, and it's helpful if you use a big brush everywhere. If you're like starting out with a massive brush and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to get into this little area, and you're using the very tip, and you're like, oh, I need to put more paint on my brush so that I can shape my brush in a certain way so that it gets into that little perfect area. And then as I drag it across this little area, I need to lift it off at a perfect moment, but very slightly, so that little line or that little area, as I lift it off, fades out a little bit right at that point, or, like right here, it needs to be sharp, and I'm just going to tap it down. Just tap that into that sharp brush down. Very sharp line, and has a particular note to it. It's like a definite, like someone's on the piano and they just walk by and they hit the key on the end, and it's like ding, that kind of thing. Like playing with how we put our brush down, and really looking at the, why we're bringing the brush to the canvas for this item, for this little moment. I think that's the best word for these, like little moments, right? And putting it down for that moment, and intentionally for that moment, to describe that moment in a certain way, will always get your brush to move in different ways. You'll always be like at the edge of your brush, very on the top of your brush, at the very back of your brush, like the tip of the bristles aren't even touching, and you're just like kind of digging in or something. There's there's a whole many ways of just using the same brush to make everything look so much more interesting. And it's kind of like I'm trading. Like I'm working in the same way as a hyper-realist person will work, but in a simplistic way. Like I'm looking at all, like the tip of these fingers with, the myriad, like I can zoom in for you. Like there's like so many changes in directions, different changes in value and drawing. There's a tremendous amount of information just on the tip of one of these fingers, right? And I can sit there and I can go, okay, there's the line where the cuticle ends and the fingernail begins, and it gets a little bit lighter, a little bit of a highlight on that fingernail, a little bit darker, and it turns a little bit more purplish, like intense color. And then don't forget the tip. The tip has a little bit lighter color. It's catching a little bit more light. I need to get out my 2-hair brush and make sure I get that in. So I'm seeing all these things. Like I can notice them and I'm thinking about them. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, how can I put that down with one big brush and one big stroke and make it interesting, simple and interesting? So it says tip of the finger with a fingernail on the end of it, but instead of using a 2-hair brush and 50 brush strokes, how can I do it with this one brush and 2 strokes? And I think that's hard. That's really hard. See, like that doesn't quite get it, but I know it's enough so I can kind of massage that background around it to push it back to where I want it. So where did I use that gray at? Actually, I don't really want the gray. Oh, my brushes are all mixed up as far as color. It's okay. It's okay. Jump into this one. and then just go away. That little end of it. Like I'm falling in love with these little moments, but not in that kind of detailed, hyper realistic way with, real small brush to get it exactly the way it looks like, but simplifying the detail. Just as I would paint like the block in for this whole painting, I'm thinking about the tip of that finger. How can I block that in simply and interesting? So the paint is interesting, and at the same time, it still looks like the tip of a finger. Yes. Yes. There we go. That's what I'm thinking about. Okay, another person online says, I'm painting, and it's so funny saying your name. I'm sure there's going to be people watching this stream that are going, does he just refer to people as another person online? Another person on my stream says, why can't you just say their name, Chris? Okay, you say, I'm painting some thumb-size little Renaissance portraits. Ooh, that's cool. Used a big brush, but at moment using a number 3 bright. I'd love to see those. Share those with me. I think you got my email. You guys should share your work with me all the time. Love to see it. Maybe you have shared stuff with me. I don't know. Trying to keep track of like the pseudonyms on here and then like the real names that I get in email, which I will not say real names here unless they're actually here, I'm going to be bad at it. So sorry. Sorry. I think it's a funny thing. It's an interesting thing. We get onto social media and it's like, okay, who do I want to be? For me, I did that years ago, and then I was like, no, I'm Chris Bevan. I don't need to be anybody else. Now everybody knows where I'm at. The government can track me easier this way. All right, I want the tip, the little tiny highlight on the end of this fingernail. And I'm totally influenced by Colleen Barry and that one painting that I saw, and how she described this fingernail so simply. And I'm like, look at that brushstroke. Oh, not the right value. Darn it, I darkened it up too much. One brushstroke that was the highlight of a fingernail. And I'm like, that's all you needed. Like, it described the whole thing beautifully. Like, this is the moment of the end of this finger that I think that might describe everything about it perfectly. No, needs a couple more strokes. Chris says, prep like a pro, paint like a painter. Lots of different values in the fingers. Yeah. I wish YouTube would display my real name. I think you can do that. I think it does. Maybe I don't even know if it does for me. Let's see. Sidetracked. I could do a test. Oh yeah, it says Chris Bevan art. Well, I mean, that's like when they say username, it's always Chris Bevan. What's your real name? Chris Bevan. Username, Chris Bevan. Yeah. Gonna try to upload some stuff to you, Chris, as well as get to artwork today. Getting late. Oh, okay. Yeah, because I know like these streams at noon, a lot of people come into streams like later in the day after your work day, and you're like probably over on that side of the earth, right? I'd have to stream a lot later in order to start getting people from America, but Americans are stupid. We don't. It's just messing. I'm in America. I could say that. I think I can. I love traveling to Europe. We've traveled to Europe several times, and it's always been this like fascinating thing. Just amazing. The history, the beauty, like everything there. It's fantastic. So yeah, I'm a little bit of a, what do you call it? I'm a fanboy for Europe, any place in Europe. Oof, just one, one little tap here, and I think I'm going to stop on this finger because if I can get that little shadow side right where the fingernail stops. Yeah. That's good. That's good. So simple. So much fun. I find this type of painting just so much more fun. What time is it? Let me see if we can. An hour and a half. Here's. I'm going to do this. I'm going to change my camera to 4K. There we go. Isn't that different? Oh my God. It was a different painting a second ago. Look at the beauty of the, oh, I'm so happy with that. That looks so good. I don't say that often about my artwork, but I'm loving that. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about it. You know, years and years ago, I would never say this. I would never have never said that. I'd be like, oh, like, what does this block in? I mean, it's not even a finger. It's just a bunch of brushstrokes. Come on, Chris. You know, where's all the detail? But now I'm, you know, this is where I'm loving life and loving it all. But you see what I'm talking about? Like, oh, look, and maybe that's why I like painting small, especially on a string, because I can zoom in this far and you get more of the detail. But when I change to 4K, like you're still getting a 1080p image. You know, this is me being a tech guy. I do like tech stuff, right? You're still getting 1080p image, like it's being dropped down in quality, but 4K it's starting out that way. So you're definitely seeing a lot more information at this moment. And I wish I could show every stream like this. It'd be great. Maybe one day when I have money, lots of money, I can just spend a whole bunch of money on a very expensive camera that can do 4, 6, and 8K like imagery for longer than a half an hour. And then I'll just use that. And I have no idea. What did I just mix up? Look at this dark color. There's nothing on here that dark. If I put this down, it's going to be like a beacon for everything. Like, nope. Oh, but you're not seeing that. Sorry. I'm talking about my palette that you can't see now. I just mixed up this stupid color. Anyway, that's probably good. I should not even say that. I should say, hey, look at, man, I mixed up this amazing color. I wish you guys could see it. Yeah, you just have to understand how awesome I am. Right. Yeah, you know I'm joking when I start talking that way. Yeah, what I want to do is I want to darken up under that pinky a little bit. I want to separate the pinky from the background just a little bit more. And I made up this kind of purple color, but I want to warm it up a little bit. So yellow and black. Warmer but grayer. Let's see where this goes. Like, I like this kind of dark line. Like, I think you guys can see this. Like, you can see my bad drawing here. Like, here's where the pinky ends, right? And there's where the hilt of the knife begins. And we have this whole back of the bra that's there. There's actually should be more space here than we see on the reference. But at the same time, I see that the drawing's off. Okay, it's off. The hand probably needs to be smaller, right? I need to have more space between them to get that bra in its accurate place. But it's a bra. It's the most unimportant thing about the back of this figure. It would probably be a more interesting narrative if I just didn't even paint the bra in there. Maybe hinted at it in places, but didn't do it fully, maybe. So there's these moments within our painting where we can say, okay, that drawing is off. I see that it's off. And instead of being like beholden to this idea that the drawing everywhere has to be perfect, has to be exactly like the reference that we're painting from, we can always say, no, it's better this way, right? It's better if I don't worry about it. Like, it's not going to make that big of effect on the painting as a whole. I think that's where the moments we get into when we're painting, where we can kind of begin to break away from this necessity of our reference, what we're painting from. And we get further into like personal decision making within our art, so that it becomes more of a commentary from ourselves, more authentic, of our authentic voice, rather than just, I'm an automaton that needs to copy what I see all the time. Now, I always back these harsh statements up with the alternates. You may have noticed on these streams, I do the same thing over and over again. I'll make a definite statement, and then I'll say, but you can always do the opposite of it. And the reason why I say that is because, like I say, there's no one way, one right way. Like, we have this way to choose. We can choose to push ourselves to move further away from the reference and to get closer to our own authentic voice, or our authentic voice could be exactly what that reference is in a very detailed way. That's up to us. But I love like moving away from it. I love finding these little moments where, it's a bit more part of me, rather than the reference telling me everything. Like, the reference just hinting at where I should go. It's like, hey, dude, yeah, I have all this detail here. This is the reference talking to Chris, right? The reference is telling Chris, hey, I got all of this information. This photo grabbed an infinite world of information that I have for you. But you need to do it this way. There's this little tiny bit here and little tiny bit here, and that little value change there, and a billion other little details that I could get into. But I look at it and I say, no, it's a suggestion. It's suggesting that I do it this way. And then I'm like, oh, okay, that's a cool suggestion. But what if we go in this other direction? Like, that felt too dark. Those couple strokes, too dark. A little too warm, a little too dark, a little too intense. So lighten it up, bring the intensity down. Yeah, that's better. Better. The purpose of those two strokes there's this kind of top plane of, the flap of skin on this finger, and then all of a sudden it changes planes right there. And right on top of that is a much lighter value. Like it's like a fold in the skin on top of that knuckle. I think like the skin has gotten a little bit, it's not taut, it's the opposite of taut, whatever that is. I don't, maybe flaccid right there. And so we're losing that structure, and I want to describe that. So it's the purpose of those strokes. And then as I look at this, you can see that like super sharp edge from that gray into this light. And it's kind of cool. It's got some coolness to it. It's like, that's pretty interesting. But it's also very eye-catching. Maybe a too eye-catching. It's like, I want to break it up a little bit. So let's get a lighter value and see if we can bring that attention down a little bit. Yeah, just a touch. Really looking at these little grays and stuff that I see within these little moments and pushing them. Oh, the one thing I forgot to mention when I changed this camera to 4K and I zoomed in, if I forget about it, in a half an hour, it's going to shut off and then the stream's done. Because it takes like another 10 minutes or something to cool down. And then all of a sudden, when I look over at the stream here, and I'm looking at the hand up there, the big hand, I see that this pinky looks like it's a little bit cut off. Maybe we should extend it out a bit more. It feels a little cut off, like it needs to be longer. But I think we can do it in a fun way, an interesting way. So I'm going to get a lighter value because the tip of that pinky, if you can see in the reference, let me see if I can do this. Yeah. So the tip of that pinky is getting a little bit of light, just a little bit of interesting light on it. How can I want it to hang off into nothing and see if it will still describe the end of that finger extended out a bit further. See what I mean? Like, it's really just this little tiny light mark kind of hanging out in the middle of nowhere. Does it work? I don't know. It looks a little bit too disconnected. I'm going to darken this color up a little bit and bring it around the top of the finger now. Maybe. Maybe. Now I think it's that shadow, that little kind of greenish gray shadow area. Extend that out just a little bit. I'm getting out my maul stick. You're probably not seeing that because, yeah, it's all covered. To get in these little tiny moments. Ooh, too light of a value. Black and gray. The little bit of yellow and blue to green it up some. No, still needs to be darker. Yeah, I like that. Simple, simple, interesting. It's just a fun bit of painting, a fun bit of paint itself. Now, I want to figure out how to treat that bra. I think I'm going to keep it because I do like that line separating everything. I don't want to get in there because in the bra, there's like all these little straps and things like that, and it lightens up a lot. I don't want to get deep into that. I like that there's a color separation between the bra and the back, but at the same time, how can I kind of paint it like it's there, but it's not there? It's like kind of. And when I think that, when I say those words, there but not there, I'm thinking light brushstrokes, soft edges, right? Just barely touching the canvas with a dry brush. Where it's hinting at a specific shape there, repeated kind of shape. Like fabric repeating itself. And I think there's enough there with the shadow, this kind of shadow line that I put in to tell someone that, hey, that's something. Yeah, it's kind of got this like manufactured feel to it a little bit. It's like when we think about there's this when we're painting landscapes and stuff and we see like a tree line, and I don't know how I can explain this. We'll see like this edge of a tree line like against the skyline, and it'll be like evergreen trees, right? And the great thing about nature is it's perfectly random. We never look up at the stars and say, it'd be great if that was in a grid pattern. No, they're going to be absolutely perfect exactly where they are. So we'll see all these evergreen trees against the background sky, and it's like this perfect randomness. But our brains have a tendency to paint things mechanically. And so we'll have these perfectly delineated evergreen treetops, and they look like the edge of a saw, right? With perfect spacing between each one, and it looks very manufactured. And when you're doing landscapes, it's like, oh, I need to watch out for that. I need to always think about that, the perfect randomness, and be very random with spacing and shape and things like this when we're doing landscapes. I don't do a lot of landscapes, so this is, something I learned when I was doing landscapes. But in this moment, that popped into my head because I'm thinking, I can use that kind of iterative spacing, bop, 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 to say, this is manufactured. This is a manufactured moment. We removed ourselves from organic into manufactured. And your viewer, every other human's brain out there is like, they know that, like to pick up on it in an instant, like having trust for your viewer to see that and go, oh, that's a manufactured moment. And they're not saying it out loud. It's like their brain will pick that up instantly and go, oh yeah, that's the end of a bra, or that's the edge of a bra, right? Something's happening there that's a little bit different, not the hand, not the back. Love that. It's a different way of communicating. Like, this is how we paint. We're communicating to people. And I remember watching, there was this artist doing a photographer looking at all these different ways that humans communicate with each other. And the one that I love the most is parking meters. if hopefully you're in a country that has parking meters or still has parking meters, you go up and park and it's this like big stick with a ball on the top of it, right? And you put your money in there, or it's digital now, and that's where you pay to park. And if you didn't pay, the person will come by and look at that meter and go, oh, well, you're over your time, and give you a ticket, right? Parking meter. But if you go to park and you see that a parking meter has a bag over it, you're like, oh, it's broken. I can't use that. And it's a beautiful, like, different way that humans have learned to communicate in this certain way. Like, same thing with like gas pumps, right? Oh, I can't use this gas pump because there's a bag over the handle on that gas pump. It's like, oh, we are communicating to the public. We're not saying out of order in words, but no, it's like this visual communication that happens. I was like, oh, and it was a photographer that was looking at all these different ways of communicating. I thought it was just so interesting. Isn't that fantastic? Like, when you think about that. And then if we bring this, sorry, I see your comments, but I'm like onto a thing now. You know me. So when we bring this like idea of different ways of communicating into painting, when I think about it, it's like I feel so limited because we just have one image. I'm not doing an animation where I can do 24 of these suckers in a second and communicate movement and all this other stuff. But when I think about like all these different ways that we can communicate in like a more manufactured stroke rather than an organic stroke, and what it says to the human experience. Like, I know how many people will pick that up and understand it. All of a sudden, like, this idea of painting becomes a little bit more infinite. Like, oh, I have so many more possibilities than I thought. Look at that. Okay, Chris says, yeah, I have a landscape pick with trees, concrete, and water that I could paint on cold press canvas paper. PR canvas paper. A cold press canvas paper? Oh, cold press is like, okay. So yeah, I was thinking hot press when I read cold press, but like cold press is very textural. I have a landscape pick with trees, concrete, and water that I could paint on a cold press. Oh, cold press or canvas paper. I mean, either or, right? It depends. Like, the choices I make based on the surface all have to do with size and texture. If I paint small, like this is, you can see how small this is, right? And it's hot press paper. Like, there's no texture in this paper at all. It's just really, really flat. And so with that, I get like all of this texture is nothing but paint. Like, I don't want surface to get in the way of the texture of the paint that I put down. And that's affected by being small, right? Because if I want to get very detailed with these little strokes right here, and I want those to shine on their own, definitely super smooth paper. But if maybe I want to paint with very thick paint and lots of texture, for most of the painting or for elements in the painting, maybe a cold press watercolor paper with its kind of stippling shapes, because it is different than canvas. Canvas is going to have lines, very linear, either horizontal or vertical, and how you position those lines will affect how you see your painting, or other people see your painting, that kind of thing. So if it's like, okay, can I do cold press or canvas paper, and it's 8x10, and I want to get very detailed, like, just saying you want to get really detailed on it will most likely ask you to use canvas and probably do some coats of gesso with sanding in between to lessen the texture of the paper a bit. Yeah. Hey, Michael, welcome. I'm not sure how much time we have on the stream. I got this set, my camera set to 4K, and when it shuts off, the stream's done because it's going to overheat soon at some point. Oh, my email? Okay, let me throw it out. Well, it's my name, chris@chrisbevan.com. So very far, here we go. There, chrisbevan.com. Just put Chris at in front of that. And that's me. Yeah, totally. At some point, someone's going to like sell that email to a list. And I'm going to have to like really manage like that email address. It's going to be fun. It's okay. I got a lot of tools to help me with that. But yeah, if you want to paint really detailed, it doesn't matter. Cold press or canvas paper, you would have to do some coats of gesso and some sanding in between if it's small as well to get that detail, to get it much smoother so that texture doesn't like interrupt the detail. And if you don't care about the texture, if you like, oh, I paint really thick and I'm going to paint with a palette knife, heck, just go either one, right? Yeah. Now with the cold press watercolor paper, you do have to put something on top of it if you want it to last for more than like 60 years or something, because oil paint does eat into raw surfaces, canvas or paper. It will eventually like deteriorate that paper to nothing. There's also, oh my gosh, I could just go into too much detail about this. I'm sorry, Chris, but there's also a difference in absorption, but that depends on what you cover it with. Like you could take canvas paper or cold press or hot press watercolor paper, and if you just slather on a whole bunch of gesso, acrylic gesso, it's all going to be the same absorption, because you're painting on the gesso itself. So you're dealing with the gesso's absorption rate. But if you paint on them raw, they're going to be a little bit different on absorption, and that is a possibility. You can always choose to do that. I mean, I'm the kind of person where I do enough as far as archival quality is concerned to make sure that these paintings will last for about 100 years, definitely. But after that, I really don't care, honestly. I'm not going to have kids either, so you can't really go after my kids if the paintings fall apart after 100 years. If they're important enough in 100 years, they're painted well enough to where restorers can keep them alive for another 200 or 300 years, believe me. So hopefully I've become famous. But if you're buying my artwork to like, I'm going to save this and in 50 or 60 years, or when I'm older, I can retire after I sell it. That's probably not the best bet. I wouldn't bet on that. I like that just simple idea of the end of that finger. Let me know if you just need me to type it out for you, another person, from my email. Well, I can check my email to see if it worked. You said it didn't work. Check email. Do it. Go find it. Yeah, I didn't get anything yet, so. Okay. Losing a little energy right now. It's okay. I got a few more minutes, I'm sure. I like this little end of this finger, but I want to soften out this transition before, this kind of section of the finger and the tip. And actually, I think it needs to go further in anyways. Further close to the edge. So a lighter, softer brush stroke there. Brighten it up or lighten it up a little bit more. So I simply got this turn in this finger, the end of it, where it kind of looks like it's their finger is a little broken, but it's just like it changes in direction, like it goes this way and then the tip kind of faces out a little bit. And I'm happy that I got that change in direction simply done. I don't think that one, I don't think that helped it at all. See, I'm starting to get quiet now. Oh, starting to lose energy. I can tell when I'm losing energy. It's probably one of the best things we can do is to know like our energy levels really well. Telling you that affects how you paint, what you can do, and how focused you are on everything that you do, not just painting, but everything you do. So much. And if you're like, you know what? I know, and this is me, I know that I only have like an hour and a half to 2 hours painting time within me every day. And that is sustainable for me. Bit more than that, no. I did that April painting challenge. Oh, nope, sorry. Okay, I'll type it out. No worries. No worry. No, don't say sorry. Chris. There you go. Copy paste. See, I should have done it at the beginning. Just make it easy for you. I mean, I asked you to send them. Dude, you should be like, Chris, come on, stop being lazy. Type out your email, lazy. Give it to me. Dance, monkey, dance. Definitely. This is what I need. I need people to keep me accountable. Now I'm looking up here. This is just like blank canvas and kind of a mess going on up here. And I want to bring that into like some interesting paint here. There's a couple moments that I see that would be really nice. Oof. And as I put that down right away, I don't like how dark it is. Awesome. Closer to titanium white. That's what I need. More than one focal point? Yeah. It really is. I mean, if I had a dominant, I think, yeah, it is. And that's hard because you can really, if you have, I've told people this because I've heard it from other artists, right? I haven't really tried paintings with like a bunch of focal points, like multi-figure compositions, like are beyond me. Man, I don't know. I don't know anything about that. That's getting into something so like beyond my pay grade, right? But I would like to say that the hands at the bottom that we've been working on for days already are the more dominant focal point in this painting. and that hopefully everything is a bit secondary to that. But this hand here that I'm working on now, having so much fun with it that if it becomes like, a fairly dominant secondary focal point, I'm cool with that. That's cool. Okay, let's go. We're good. Let's do that. But I don't want to have. There's two hands at the bottom of this one. That I could count that as three. I think that's enough. Once you get upwards of like 5 focal points or whatever, it's like you're into next level painting there. Oof. Here we go. Paint that background into that finger a little bit, just a little bit. Don't worry, I can get that back. I can bring that edge of that finger back a little bit. What I really like right here, what I think is really awesome, I want to fade this out a little bit more. So soften. And actually, I want to also bring some of that color up over here. But what I really like right there, I need a smaller brush for it. There's some reflected light of this finger reflecting onto the back, and it's turned orange. So I'm going to try and make up a somewhat bright orange and put there. Intensify it a bit as well. Simply. Let's see if I can do it simply. That wasn't simple. It's a big chunk of paint. Good job, Chris. Failed. Oh, it worked. Okay, awesome. Well, I learned it's a lot easier to just throw it in chat and have people copy paste. Yeah, thank you for sharing those with me. I definitely want to see little small Renaissance paintings. That's a cool idea. I mean, who doesn't love the Renaissance? I'm sure a lot of people don't, but they would be wrong in their opinion. Sorry. I'm getting a little loopy now. Man, when is this camera going to overheat? Holy cow. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I can go for a lot longer with 4K. No, I think that location of that is a bit off. Oh, big meaty finger. Yeah, this is going to be a very sharp line, and I don't want a sharp line here. Yeah. Oh, I suck with a palette knife. I am so awful with a palette knife, like, especially on the slick surface. Like, it goes so much further than I wanted to go. It's really good to know that. Okay, if I wanted to like focus on something and improve it, boy, I have all kinds of things that I can focus and improve upon. I'm so glad you brought up like the whole focal point thing, because there's a hand up here you guys can't see. And I'm painting in a location you can't see either. Let me just paint all the way up here, my big hand in the way. Oh, it doesn't matter. You guys can't see that. I'm like writing my name up there and you don't even see it. Canvas sheet. The shadow under the finger is awesome, Chris. Thank you. Appreciate that. Which finger? Crap, what was I saying? I'm losing it. Yeah, man. Brain's dying, guys. My brain's dying. I got sidetracked by there's so many things that, you start to learn, like as you're going through painting, and you're like, oh, look at all these things I can work on, like to get better at, mark them down, go, yeah, I suck at that. Awesome. When I get around to, wanting to work on it, I'll bring in like let's do a whole painting where it's just nothing but palette knife work. I bet you that would change up everything. Like, it'd probably be better done on different textured paper, something with a little bit more tooth to it, you know? I don't know. It'd be kind of fun. Knowing the palette knife. If you look at Greg Manches, I did a mentorship with Greg Manches. Manchess. Very expressive, painterly painter, right? And uses a palette knife. Oh, it was so good because I got to watch him paint with a palette knife. And guys, it's not like this one of these things where you just like pick up a big clump of paint on a palette knife, you know, and just like kind of slap it down. No, he was like, no, you like for certain shapes, you have to shape the paint on the palette knife. Sometimes he uses a brush on the palette knife to shape how he puts this particular length of paint on the palette knife, just so that he can get it down onto his canvas in the right place, in the right shape that he wants. And it's like, oh, wow. And there's so many instances where I start to learn a little bit about other artists and their techniques. And even though you look at the paintings and they're like very expressive, they look like they were just kind of done really quickly with a fast hand. And then you learn more about their process and you learn how exacting like everything is and how thought out every single stroke is. It's like, whoa, okay. You know, it's less like this crazy race car just going down the road at breakneck speeds without any thought, and more like a well-tuned machine and person behind the wheel, and or like a fighter jet with a lot of I'm trying for a good analogy here and it's probably failing completely, but you know what I mean. Like, it's much more planning and thought is put into like every movement that they do, more than you would think. I don't think that's true with every expressive painting, but a lot of artists that I figure out what their methods are, it's like, oh, man, that's more exacting than I thought. A little bit more purple. Purple. Or as someone said on the stream before, they called it poople. Well, I don't have any gesso. Okay. Well, the canvas then, Chris, go for the canvas, because the canvas has probably already got an initial layer of gesso on it right away. So that way, I mean, at least it'll be around for forever or for a lot longer. But you'll have to deal with that texture. But, you know, a lot of this art game is experiencing the problems as well. So if you're like, oh, I want to paint detailed, Chris told me to paint on something a bit smoother because, you know, it will, if I don't, it's going to interrupt that detail. But you can't because you don't have the materials. Go ahead and paint on the rough and see what I mean. Okay. And you're like, well, I don't want my painting to not be good. Listen. You know, however old you are, you still have hundreds of paintings in you. You got this, you know. And you may do that and go, I don't know what Chris was talking about. I think it's fine. I think it looks great. Yeah, so go for it. Yeah, go for it with whatever you have. The most important thing you can ever do, listen, everybody listen to this. This is so important. The most important thing you can ever do is get to painting. put paint on canvas as often as possible, as much as you can. Spend as much time painting, whatever. The materials don't matter. You can worry about that later, okay? But don't go, oh, I got to order on Amazon and wait for that, and then wait for this to come in and wait for that to happen and wait for no, you'll be waiting your whole life. Just get the painting. Go ahead and order some, or plan on going to your art store, the other day or after you're done with this painting or whatever, or ordering it online and wait for that to come in. But today, right now, get the painting, go for it. Make it, figure it out. Fail a little bit, understand yourself a little bit more, That's the most important thing. How many excuses have I made over my life where I'm like, oh, I just don't feel like it. Oh, no, I really have this really cool idea and I want to do X, Y, and Z, so I need to wait on that. No. Go ahead and get to work. Yeah, do it. It's so much more fulfilling and affirming to have something completed, good or bad, than to wait continually for the perfect scenario to come by before you get to work, or the perfect materials or the perfect whatever. It's a whole learning process too. You may do this painting on texture or super texture and you're like, yeah, I see more detailed within the smooth stuff, but I love painting on the texture and I'm going to work with it in that way, Yeah, this one moment here, I'm going to kind of dumb this down a little bit. Even more. Oof. Not too bad. Okay. All right. I think my energy is running its course today with the painting. So let's put this down. Let me back up on this. Zoom out a bit. Wrong way. This way. That way you can see everything. Oh, you just lose all the detail within it. So sad. That'll be fine right there. But I do need to. There we go. Okay. Under the pointer finger and all the fingers. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think I screwed up that shadow right after you said that. Chris emailed you all good. Look for Oil Painter 2026. Fantastic. Another pseudonym I have to figure out. Maybe I'll figure out your real name. That's all good. So Michael, you fail. It says failed with 2 portraits today, but I feel that is one more step forward. Heck yeah. Great job on those failures, man. The fact that you know that they're a failure and for some reason whatsoever, here's the normalcy of, because people want to be nice all the time and it's cool. I'm a nice person. I like being nice all the time, but in this safety realm of art, hopefully I'm making a safe hemisphere here where people feel like they can say, hey, Chris, that looks like ass, and I would be like, oh, really? What? Tell me how do you think it would look better? Please. That's kind of environment that I want. And that's what I'm going to give. Like, I'll give you positive. Like, if you send me something, I'm going to say, oh man, I really love X, Y, and Z. And there's always something good in every painting. And then I'll say, like this area, it's giving you a little trouble there. Maybe try and do that. But when you tell people like, and you guys know this, oh man, I did this painting today, it was freaking awful. And they'll say, nah, it's probably a really good painting. They're trying to make you feel good and stuff like that. Not me. I'm going to say, okay, awesome that you failed and that you know that. It's like not where you want to be. Okay, fantastic. Those are the most important moments, I think, because define and write down why it's failing, and try to get as objective as possible, objective language with that, Michael, because if you say, oh, it just doesn't look good, I mean, that's not telling you anything. Like, your next painting is just going to fail just as well. You didn't learn anything from those awesome failures. Like, why is those portraits failing? I mean, most of the time on portrait, it's drawing on portraits, man. Hands, portraits, figures, always like 90% of the time it comes back to drawing. So it could be that, could be the color, could be, understanding the form, all these things, but bringing it into an objective language where you can write it down. And then on the next one, you go, okay, I'm going to put a process in place on this one to where I may not do the drawing better, but it's going to prepare me to have better chances to get that drawing on, right? Maybe, I don't think I didn't do it on this painting. Maybe I did. I can't remember. It's been so freaking long on this darn painting. No, I started this out. I drew it out in paint, but I have drawn my paintings out forever before I paint on them. And it's because I know I need to constantly work on my drawing. Why? Because the paintings before keep yelling at me, Chris, you need to work on your drawing, all that kind of stuff. Thanks for the email. Another person, definitely. Chris, LOL, sorry, you'll see an email with subject line, another person online. Oh, great. Okay. Thank you. I'll check it out after we're done. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm excited to see your work. And maybe after I just said that, you're probably like, oh no, he's going to see my work and he's going to tell me what's wrong with it. I'll tell you right now, guys, don't send me your work unless you want some criticism, unless you're okay for critical opinion on your work. I care about artists, and to care most about artists is to give them like an honest critical review, not completely and utterly critical. Like, people can go into and see nothing but negativity and what's wrong and just focus on that completely. And that's bad too. But when people see your work and they say nothing but good things about it, that's unhelpful, right? There's always that good and bad. And if we can figure that out and bring it into objective language, especially for a person that's been doing it for maybe longer than you, I'm not sure how long you've been painting, so helpful. It's like therapy, honestly. And I say this several times. I've said this before. You go into and you're talking to someone that is knowledgeable about the language of emotion and personal development. And you go into them and you're saying, yeah, I got all this stuff going on and blah, blah, blah. And this is happening and that's happening and blah, blah, blah. And visually, it's like this big knot of cord, right? And it's all jumbled up, and that's how we normally understand emotion, and this like lack of understanding of it. And then you go to talk to someone about it and they say, oh, well, this in this particular objective way, in this objective way, and they're like unraveling that cord with objective language that brings in a deeper understanding. And then you go, oh, okay, now I understand why I feel this way. And it totally makes sense. And you leave out from there and you go, oh, I feel so much better, because they didn't fix your problems. They just gave you an objective way to move through it with better understanding. It's the same with artwork. if I went into your painting and I was like, oh, well, that doesn't look very good. It's a little, there's something a little bit off there. Oh, and that doesn't look well put together. It's a little wonky. If I was using that language afterwards, you'd probably say, yeah, Chris pointed out some good stuff. Or like if I looked at a particular thing and said, oh, that's really nice. It looks very pretty. That little part of paint is really interesting. And you'd be like, okay, what am I going to do with that? Things for the good and the bad responses on this, but it doesn't give me any kind of objective way to repeat the good stuff and figure a way to not repeat the bad stuff. So that's why I always talk about this objective language moving through things. It's so important. I'm losing it. Yeah, I'm definitely losing it. I've been losing it for years, and it's a fun ride, let me tell you. I think we all need to lose ourselves. Yeah. All right. Speaking of getting lost, that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to go get lost in, I don't know what, but not here. So, all right, you guys get lost. I'm going to go get lost. Oh, Michael says, after failed, I'm trying to analyze mistakes and try to work on them. Yeah, if you need help, shoot me an email on that. Yeah, and don't forget, I have almost three people, 2 people now that have signed up for my mentorships. Like I do a group mentorship through Mastrius that no one's signed up for yet because people want to do one-on-one mentorship. So go to my website, look at the mentorships on there, chrisbevan.com. You see it. It's right here, right there. If you're interested in getting feedback on your work and further stuff, it's like $50 a month for a 2-hour session once a month. Sounds a lot of fun. I'm excited. I can't wait to start talking to some people about their artwork and things like that. But if you send me something with a question, I'll still probably answer and give you some feedback. It's going to be much more minimal than like if you're paying me money for it, obviously. But I always like talking about stuff. Number one mistake is speed. I would have never thought about that. Like going too fast? Probably. Usually, okay, I'm going to guess. I'm going to guess this. Okay, let's guess Michael's problem. Be like guessing my problems. Good luck on that. We could list them. There's not a long enough Google sheet to list all my problems, and those things are infinite. I would guess it's probably too fast. Yeah, because most of the artists and myself that I see that had issues is we're moving our hands too fast before our brain can think about what's in a hurry to finish, in a hurry to get to the end. I know, I feel that with this. I'm feeling it. I'm like, I've been working on this painting for tomorrow's going to be the 8th day. But you will get faster, okay? You'll get faster with completing paintings, with getting to the end of paintings. I'm going to turn this off. I don't want it to overheat too much. So you'll get faster on painting, and that just comes with time. And then you'll turn in, like paintings like this will slow you down because there's some complexity that you haven't dealt with yet. And you're like, okay, I need to slow down on this one. And sometimes it's not even the painting. Sometimes it's like, work is giving me some trouble. I'm having some trouble at home. I haven't slept well and my brain is not working well. So I need to slow down because I can't take in or process all this visual information and put it to paint unless I'm going slowly. Oh, yeah. That was Bill Murray. As they said in Ghostbusters, cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria. That was a good painting, or a good movie. I remember that when I was a kid. Still good, I think. Maybe I watched it recently. But yeah, I've talked about it before, and I think maybe you've heard this, Michael, where it's not about how fast you move your hands, but how often you can put a correct brushstroke down and leave it and not have to touch it again. And so that has to do with focus and accuracy, being dialed into what you're doing, and really be cognizant of the color you're mixing up, the size of the brush, the placement of it on your canvas or paper, and what it feels like and how you put it down, and taking your time and really kind of moving through it, you know? And you'll find that you can get paintings done faster by moving slowly because there's not a lot of correction that happens. But then sensibilities come into that. Like if you love painting fast, there's also a training that can be involved in that as well. Like if you like, I really love the energy when I'm just moving my arm fast everywhere, and I can't get that kind of energy by moving slow and really trying the same strokes. I've seen a lot of artists that paint fast intentionally, moving their hand fast. When I say fast, they're like, poof, boom, they're just really kind of doing this. And they're training in that so that they can bring accuracy and focus and specificity to every one of those strokes really quickly, and those like, I think it was Ben English is his name. I can't remember the artist. Last name is English. I know that. Paints really fast and accurately, but has done it so often. What was the other artist? Chris Long, maybe, is like that. I can't remember. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, I mean, it's one of the two things. You slow down and you focus, or you keep training that speed and try to work within the speed. And that could be very similar to like when you're playing, let's say you're playing an instrument like a guitar, right? And you're looking at the chords and you know that the song is like really fast, like, and you have to do a lot of movements quickly. But when you're training that particular song, a lot of the teachers will start you out like, okay, let's just move through each note, like boom, 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 like slowly, and then do it a little bit faster, 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 and then get up to speed. That kind of thing. So the training starts slow and then moves up to speed. And that's all about sensibility. Like if you want to if moving fast is your thing, you got to train that along with everything else. Or slow down, take your time, figure out where your brain is at the time, if you can do that focus, and then, make decisions based on that. What you talking about, Willis? What was that TV show from? I can't remember. Was that the Jeffersons? No, that was anyway. My brain is dead, guys. I gotta run. I'm gonna go check on the cats and get something to eat. But thank you so much for bevan here. Appreciate you. ChrisBevan.com to see more stuffs, to support me however you feel like it. It's all good. And I'll see you tomorrow to continue work on this. No, tomorrow's Sunday. Sunday I'm going to be doing, if I do a stream tomorrow, it'll be early and it'll probably be short because I'm doing urban sketching tomorrow, which starts at 10 a.m. here because it's hot and we want to start it early. But if I do a stream tomorrow, it'll be early. If not, I'll see you on Monday. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye. Thanks, Michael.